Start with contracting sprites. Chapter 371, Su Hao, the youngest master sprite cultivator. The Sprite Cultivation Research Department was one of the four major departments of the Union. It was also divided into many independent sub-departments. The Review Department was one of the important sub-departments and was in charge of reviewing the papers submitted by the Sprite cultivators. Of course, the responsibility of reviewing ordinary papers was given to the Association of Sprite Cultivators from various countries. Only a small number of important papers published by high-level Sprite cultivators were allowed to be uploaded to the headquarters building in the city of Glow. At this moment, it was late at night in the city of Glow, but there were still several expert Sprite cultivators on duty in the review department. Usually, they didn't need to personally review the research papers, unless... Ding dong! A notification suddenly popped up on the computer in front of the Sprite cultivators. There was a research paper that was uploaded for review, and it was a paper with very high priority. They needed to deal with it as soon as possible. Let me see. A particularly sleepy Sprite cultivator opened the dedicated computer in the department. Suddenly, his eyes widened, and his sleepiness dissipated. What? The Fallen Evolution research paper is out so early. The reviewer controlled his mouse and opened it, only to see a red frame appear on the screen. Warning! Your authority is insufficient to read this paper. Warning! Your authority is insufficient. Warning! The Sprite cultivator. I'm the reviewer. How can I not be qualified? But... he was indeed not qualified to read such a heavyweight research paper. Even if he was qualified, he still knew deep down that he didn't have the ability to judge such a paper. I have to inform the masters in charge of the evaluation process. He glanced at the time. Well, it's currently midnight and I can't disturb the masters. I can only wait for tomorrow. It was normal for him to think like this. The other reviewers would have also done the same. After all, who would dare to disturb their superiors in the middle of the night? Bang! The entire office door was violently pushed open and slammed into the wall. A disheveled man with messy hair strode over and waved at a reviewer who was in his seat. Get up quickly, I want to see that research paper immediately. Oh right, remember to close the door when you go out. The reviewer was chased out with a confused look. Very soon, his cell phone rang. It was a call from another colleague. Then, all of the reviewers' respective superiors, the few masters with the highest authority in the review department, were now present. They were using the special computer in the department to read the research paper. There were a total of 6 masters with the highest authority in the review department. Among them, there was a fixed master from Dragon Nation, Golden Eagle Federation, and White Bear Nation. It was the same for the 6 review window positions. The rule here was that 5 out of the 6 masters had to vote yes before the research paper could be passed. At the moment, however, the few masters weren't even concerned with reviewing the research paper. They just couldn't wait to know what the theoretical support of Fallen Evolution was. So that's how it is. I see. Even a master sprite cultivator had to spend a lot of effort reading this paper. They kept thinking and occasionally stopped to look for other information. It looked as if they weren't reviewing the paper but instead learning some advanced theory. It took a few hours for the masters to roughly understand the whole paper. The progress was neither fast nor slow. Fallen evolution involves many changes. Logically speaking, it's far inferior to the giganticization evolution in terms of generalization, but the core of the entire giganticization evolution was pretty simple. It was to let the sprite's size increase by several times or even more than 10 times. Through this, the sprite could achieve the goal of increasing its strength and energy and break through its limit. The theory of the fallen evolution was much more complicated. When the masters finished reading the first chapter and felt that they had a clear understanding of fallen evolution, the second chapter quickly left them dazed again. To their knowledge, the research paper's theory even applied to sprites that couldn't go through the fallen evolution. It was a theory that was familiar but also different. Originally, the number of sprites that can be compatible with the fallen evolution theory is far less than the giganticization theory, but this theory is just too detailed. It completely covers all aspects. Any special situation that I can think of is mentioned in the paper. Unbelievable, unbelievable. It's completely comparable to the giganticization theory that has been continuously perfected for more than 10 years. It's even more complete and comprehensive. There are 72 common examples of the advanced ritual alone that can be used on a variety of sprites. In terms of generalization, it's already no weaker than the giganticization evolution. A certain master sprite cultivator from the Golden Eagle Federation exclaimed, "Moreover, the development potential of a sprite that has gone through fallen evolution is also much higher. There isn't as obvious a flaw either. This theory. Why isn't this genius sprite cultivator from our Golden Eagle Federation?" A certain sprite cultivator was both amazed and regretful. He immediately stopped thinking and continued to read the research paper in detail. When the Fallen Evolution research paper was uploaded and displayed as awaiting review, many sprite cultivators with authorization had already known about this in advance. In the Dragon Nation, at a top research institute in Yunhua City, Master Chen Ping, who was known as the pioneer of evolution, was currently conducting an experiment. His research that had been going on for a few months was already nearing the end. The whole team, including Master Chen Ping, was tired but also excited. Suddenly, beep beep. The light at the laboratory door flickered and slowly pulled open. A young man in a white coat ran in, panting. He shouted from afar, "Master!" He supported his knees with his hands and kept panting heavily. His sweat-drenched hair stuck tightly to his forehead. Seeing this, Master Chen Ping frowned slightly. The team was already approaching the end of the experiment. Thus, he had already instructed that he would not be disturbed until the experiment was over. But why was this student so impatient? "Speak," Master Chen said expressionlessly. The young man in the white coat, who had taken 2 breaths, immediately said, "Teacher, the Fallen Evolution research paper has already been uploaded." "What? So soon?" This completely exceeded Master Chen's expectations. He stood on the spot and thought for 2 seconds. Then, he called over an expert-level sprite cultivator who was second only to him in the laboratory in terms of status. "The key parts of our experiment have been completed. I'll leave the rest to you. I have some things to do, so I'll have to leave first." Master Chen Ping patted his assistant's shoulder and walked towards the laboratory door in 3 steps, leaving behind the confused sprite cultivator. "Wait! Don't think I didn't hear it. The Fallen Evolution research paper is out. I really want to see it too, boss." There were many others who also acted like Master Chen Ping. Some were notified by wristbands, while others discovered the news by logging into the intranet themselves. There were also some who had long instructed people to wait and report the moment there was any news. The news uploaded by the Fallen Evolution research paper quickly spread to the higher UPS of the sprite cultivator world. But what made many master sprite cultivators and expert-level sprite cultivators go crazy was that even after 1 day, 2 days, 2.5 days, the entire Fallen Evolution research paper still had the status of being under review. Why is it still being reviewed? Can't you release it earlier? Why is the review department taking so long? An impatient and hot-tempered master sprite cultivator immediately made a call to ask, but only received a weak answer from the other end of the phone saying, "Several masters are currently in seclusion for the review." The door to the office of the review department was closed, and even food was not allowed to enter. But how could you blame anyone for rushing? Everyone was very desperate. It wasn't until the 3rd day after the paper was uploaded that the thesis on Fallen Evolution was officially published. Many masters and sprite cultivators who had been waiting in front of their computers immediately logged into their accounts, opened the website, and bought the research paper. Ding dong! Union contribution points 2,400, 20% discount, have been deducted. The right to read such a heavyweight thesis naturally came with a fee, and the cost was quite expensive. But compared to expert-level Sprite cultivators who were tight on funds, the masters were much richer and didn't mind the cost at all. Even Sprite cultivators who didn't study evolution would buy the thesis directly out of curiosity. Very soon. What the f*ck, so good, God, I learned more from this paper than from my 10 years of education, and other exclamations came from the mouths of the Sprite cultivators. In many high-end Sprite cultivator group chats, discussions regarding the fallen evolution theory were ceaseless. Many Sprite cultivators who didn't buy any research papers were surprised to find that they couldn't join the discussion at all. To them, listening to the discussion felt like listening to a book. There was even a Sprite cultivator who said frankly, for high-level Sprite cultivators who engage in the path of evolution, if their financial situation allows it, I strongly recommend purchasing this fallen evolution theory. As long as you can fully understand it, the benefits are bound to be substantial. Of course, for high-level Sprite cultivators, this fallen evolution theory may be relatively profound, and those with insufficient authority can't buy the whole book. They can only buy the edited version. While the Sprite cultivators were busy researching and being shocked by the fallen evolution theory, many Sprite trainers were also paying attention to the research paper. On the forum of the intranet, at this moment, a Sprite trainer issued a request. Requesting for purchase of the ritual plan for fallen evolution, consultation fee can be discussed. Comment 2, OP, give up. That person doesn't need experimental sprites anymore. He should be busy doing experiments and writing papers right now. Before the theory is officially released, that person doesn't have the time, and the other masters also won't understand this ritual, so, there's no chance. Give up. Comment 5, Fallen Evolution is so cool. I also want this advancement. Does anyone know how long before the thesis will be published? I'll be waiting. Sob, sob, sob. Comment 18, as a dedicated Sprite cultivator that has just finished writing his graduation thesis, I can tell you clearly that even if I write a simple evolutionary attribute analysis thesis, it will take me months. Even with the support of a team behind me, it will be difficult to publish a large-scale thesis like Fallen Evolution without a year or two. Don't ask me how I know, my instructor is a master Sprite cultivator. Comment 18 received many upvotes. But at the 200th comment, a verified person named Master Chen Ping's assistant sent a message. Recruiting sprites with the following conditions to experiment with Fallen Evolution. Those who are interested, contact XXXX. By the way, the Fallen Evolution research paper has already been published, and the success rate of our Master Chen's ritual has always been very high, so those who are interested, make the best use of your time and don't miss it. Advanced evolution wasn't like some second-stage evolution in the past where many suitable sprites could be found in a short period of time and experiments could be easily carried out. Of course. Apart from the contribution points spent when buying the research paper, no matter who it was, they also had to pay Suhao a certain amount of patent fees for every Fallen Evolution ritual. In fact, the Union didn't have any restrictions on such patent fees and promoted the purchasing of official content. Even papers about simple improved unique skills were rarely leaked and pirated, let alone a heavyweight research paper like the Fallen Evolution theory. The masters didn't lack this bit of money, nor would they embarrass themselves by acquiring the paper through illegal means. Very soon, the purchase fees and patent fees were continuously being transferred to Suhao's card. Currently still being fast asleep, Suhao had already achieved his small goal of earning passive income. Right now, my Union contribution points are more than enough to buy the remaining materials for Butterfly and the others to advance. But one will always need more money. Who knows what materials I'll need for the 4th and 5th stage advancement in the future. For the sake of those poor children who yearned for the Fallen Evolution but couldn't get their way, Suhao could only reluctantly accept a few more business deals. The life of a Sprite cultivator was so simple and unpretentious, and profitable. Time passed day by day. On the 10th day since the Fallen Evolution research paper was approved, Master Chen Ping had become the first to complete a successful Fallen Evolution ritual other than Su Hao. Soon, the advanced rituals hosted by the other masters were completed one after another. Of course, there were also failures in many Fallen Evolution rituals. But with a very perfect Fallen Evolution theory, even if the ritual failed, it would only waste materials and not damage the foundation of the Sprite. As time passed, this advanced theory became more and more shocking in the entire Sprite cultivation realm. Completion level, generalization, advanced potential, etc. Such a large-scale research paper had not appeared for many years. Its influence was much greater than the original Spiritual Force Consolidation research paper. After all, it was possible to let the Union create a few more or even dozens more Heavenly King-level research papers in a short period of time. It was a research paper that could increase the strength of the entire Union by a small amount. It was especially shocking since the author of this research paper wasn't a Sprite cultivator or master. He was just a young man in his 20s. It had been less than 2 years since the same man had obtained the Sprite cultivator license. Many Sprite cultivators were shocked when they found out about this. Then, they flipped through the past results of this young Sprite cultivator and found out about Silkworm Baby's third pathway, Water Spirit Foal's bloodline evolution, Light Ball's third pathway, Prayer Mantis's evolution, Spiritual Force solidification, and so on. Seeing this, they realized that the youth had already obtained many outstanding research results prior to publishing his research paper. Then, they flipped through the past results of this young Sprite cultivator and found out about Silkworm Baby's third pathway, Water Spirit Foal's bloodline evolution, Light Ball's third pathway, Prayer Mantis's evolution, Spiritual Force solidification, and so on. Seeing this, they realized that this youth had already obtained many outstanding research results prior to publishing the paper. The final result of the Fallen Evolution research paper is out. The system tabulated the countless knowledge points of the whole paper, and taking into account the evaluation done by AI, the final score was determined to be 160,086. A staff member from the Sprite Cultivator Research Department paused for a moment and said, "The number of research papers published by Sprite Cultivator Su Hao has reached the required threshold, and his influence and contributions are huge. According to the advancement rules of a Sprite Cultivator, he is already a real master Sprite cultivator." At only 20 years old, Su Hao became a master Sprite cultivator. He was the youngest master in the Union. Chapter 372, Dark Society, This Man Cannot Be Left Alive. To be honest, Su Hao had never thought of becoming the youngest master Sprite cultivator at all. He had only made a small contribution to the Union by spending 2 months researching a thesis. So how exactly did he end up becoming the youngest master? Su Hao thought about it and recalled the masters he had seen. Indeed, they were either old or bald. There was no one as young and handsome as him. Well, I have to take it easy. I can do experiments, but I have to be careful not to lose my hair. Speaking of which, hair loss usually comes from stress, and I haven't. During the whole experiment process, I don't think I came across any hard problems that gave me much stress. In fact, among the younger generation of the Union, there were quite a lot of Sprite cultivators who were rich in knowledge. However, in order to become a master, apart from having to publish enough research papers, the most important thing was the influence of the research papers and the contribution the papers made to the Union. In other words, even if a Sprite cultivator had dozens or hundreds of Sprite cultivator research results, they would at least need one heavyweight research result before they could be recognized and promoted to a master Sprite cultivator. But heavyweight research was not at all easy to produce. It also often took many years. Naturally, there were very few among the younger generation who could match up to well-known experts. On the contrary, young Heavenly King level Sprite trainers were easier to be found. At this moment, Su Hao checked. 11 years ago, a young sprite cultivator from the Golden Eagle Federation obtained the title of Master when he was 26 years old. 5 years ago, a sprite cultivator from Dragon Nation also advanced to a Master at the age of 26 and beat the Golden Eagle Federation's record. And now, he had broken the record by a whopping 6 years. However, apart from strength, luck is also very important for heavyweight research. For example, right now, I don't have any valuable research clues in my hands. I can only wait for the top-notch event in the sprite cultivation world. Just as he thought of this, a long cry sounded in the sky outside the window. There was a parcel for him. Now, he could understand what the other sprites were saying even without Butterfly's translation. But I don't think I bought any packages. At this moment, Butterfly had also gone to cultivate on its own for a long time. Apart from Su Hao, Yan was the only one left in the whole villa. Su Hao had no choice but to push open the door and walk out himself. When he looked up, he saw a big green bird circling in mid-air, cuckoo. This big delivery bird was a Eastwind Falcon, the evolved form of the Sprite mission bird, and was also at its final form. The feathers of the Eastwind Falcon in front of him were bright, and green swirls of wind surrounded it. It was an extraordinary. It was carrying a small box with its claws. Seeing that Su Hao had come out, the Eastwind Falcon flapped its wings and slowly flew down. With its right claw, it skillfully untied the packaging box held on by its left claw, then lifted it up with a gust of wind and allowed the box to slowly float down into his hand. At a glance, one would be able to tell that he had done this many times before. Coo! 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 The Eastwind Falcon was saying that the delivery was meant for Su Hao. This delivery needed to be opened by him personally. It flapped its wings and turned into a green stream of light, disappearing into the horizon in an instant. Su Hao. The box in front of him was only the length of a shoe. There were many exquisite patterns engraved on it, and faint energy was coming out. He knew that this was a restriction, almost a miniaturized version of the barrier technology. The power on it wasn't strong. Most of the energy was probably used to detect or self-destruct. After looking at it for a while, Su Hao stretched out his finger and pressed on the smooth opening at the top of the packaging box. Instantly, with a click, the exquisite little box opened, and a gilded invitation letter appeared in his eyes. It was the invitation to the seminar. It was the seminar that was to be held in November, the seminar that was considered as the best in the sprite cultivation world. At this moment, since he had already advanced to Master, Su Hao finally received the official invitation to this seminar. His name was in the invitation, and it also mentioned in the invitation that he could bring 3 additional people. I didn't expect the invitation to be delivered by express delivery. Just as he thought that, the wristband vibrated. It was an email with the invitation to the seminar. It also mentioned that the official invitation would be delivered in the form of an Eastwind Falcon package. But is the network slow, or was the Eastwind Falcon just too fast? During this period of time, talk of the fallen evolution spread rapidly in the circle of middle and upper level sprite trainers. Su Hao's reputation as the youngest sprite cultivator also shocked many older and more promising sprite cultivators. But the specific influence among ordinary people might not be as strong as the discovery of Silkworm Baby's third pathway back then. Firstly, advanced evolution was too complex for ordinary people and ordinary sprite trainers to easily grasp. Secondly, it was also due to the protective measures of the Union. Only qualified sprite cultivators were allowed to read the complete Fallen Evolution research paper. The core knowledge points were the arrangements and selection of materials for the Fallen Evolution ritual. That was the key to whether a sprite could complete the Fallen Evolution. What expert-level sprite cultivators and high-level sprite cultivators could browse through were mostly parts related to the paper's basic theory. These were very helpful to sprite cultivators who studied the path of evolution. They could even be referred to as evolution textbooks, but just this knowledge alone couldn't set up a complete Fallen Evolution ritual. This was the Union's way of keeping high-level knowledge confidential. Naturally, it was still impossible to completely defend from the Dark Society's spying. In Europe, in a gloomy castle, dark blue flames burned faintly. One could vaguely see a few figures sitting around the huge round table in front. This man cannot be left alive. At such a young age, he has already developed a heavyweight research paper, The Fallen Evolution. If he's given a few more years, who knows what he will come up with. The potential threat is too great, this person must. A hoarse voice echoed in the spacious room. At this moment, another person said, Elder Snake, this young Sprite cultivator isn't weak as well. According to the information I've gathered, he once participated in the Union's Supernova Cup and qualified for the Dragon Nation. Although I'm not sure of his ranking in the Inheritance Battle, to qualify for the Supernova Cup from a big country like Dragon Nation, he definitely has the battle power of a high-level master. Well, for him to be able to enter the Supernova Cup finals at such a young age, it's very likely that he'll become a big general of the Union in the future. That's another reason to kill him. The person in charge of collecting intelligence continued, according to my investigation, this person's more commonly visited places are Whale Island University and Dragon Nation's Tianese province. We don't have the ability to assassinate him within Whale Island University, and even Tianese province. He paused for a moment and said, with the strength this Su Hao displayed, it's very difficult to kill him even with our experts. At the very least, we need the officers to take action. But in Dragon Nation, there aren't many officers that we could use. Besides, not many officers are willing to take on such an assassination mission. In the Dark Society, the bottom level might be filled with lunatics who weren't afraid of death. But many Sprite trainers of the middle and high levels didn't have much loyalty to the Dark Society. They only stayed because of benefits. They were eager to do things that came with high benefits. But how many fools would be able to reach the level of an officer if they easily gave up their lives for a few missions? It might not be difficult to assassinate someone in Dragon Nation, but it was very difficult for an assassin to leave safely after the assassination. No officer was willing to exchange their own lives for the success of the mission. At the thought of this, the whole room fell into a dead silence. After a while, the Elder Snake's hoarse voice finally rang out. Whether it's training his sprites or experimenting, it's impossible for him to stay in Dragon Nation all the time. Find an opportunity and send someone to settle it when he leaves Dragon Nation. Remember to pry out the key information about fallen evolution from his mouth first. The hoarse voice echoed, and the dark blue flames gradually extinguished. The whole castle quickly fell into dead silence again. Chapter 373, League, the last special guest. It was July the 22nd. The day was very cloudy. At the Whale Island University's Lakeview residence, in the XXX building. Su Hao was still living here temporarily. After fiddling with the research paper and advancing to a master sprite cultivator, he discovered that he still didn't have the time to rest. Firstly, I have to deal with the Dazed Crow's advancement ritual. Among the few sprites, in terms of developing potential, the Dazed Crow was slightly inferior. It could slowly be nurtured into a pseudo-monarch rank and was likely to even break through to the monarch rank, but such a process was likely to take years and was simply too slow. The only way to become stronger quickly and without negative side effects was to let it advance and break through the limits of its race. Half a month ago, the Dazed Crow was already ready to start the ritual. Su Hao had already reserved the last main ingredient, Flaming Crown, and could get the courier, Eastwind Falcon, to deliver it to him at any time. It was just that he didn't have time. I've already chosen the specific evolution venue a few months ago. I originally planned to bring Crow there to advance after the Fallen Evolution research paper is done, but the research paper took a little more time than he expected. At this moment, the High School League had already begun. As a special guest, it wasn't good for Su Hao to not attend. Besides, one of the organizers this year was Whale Island University, so he had to attend. Therefore, he could only postpone Dazed Crow's ritual. In any case, Butterfly and Ayan are already about to break through to monarch rank. It doesn't matter whether the ritual happens. Dazed Crow? Su Hao opened the interface. Butterfly and Ayan's levels were both already pseudo-monarchs. Of course, the two of them had already developed into pseudo-monarchs when they were still in the Temple of Inheritance. Among them, Ayan was slightly faster. The speed here referred to the perfection level. When the body, energy, and spirit were all developed, the sprite would be considered to have reached perfection. It was also one of the prerequisites to break through to monarch rank. As long as a pseudo-monarch perfected sprite obtained the approval of a nomological mark, it could naturally break through to monarch rank. Butterfly and Ayan both naturally possessed nomological marks more than a month ago, but they hadn't reached perfection yet, so they still needed more time to accumulate. Their situation was the complete opposite of the other sprites who had long reached perfection but were unable to get the recognition of the imprints. Due to this, they had always been stuck at the pseudo-monarch realm. But this wasn't a big problem. During the time that Butterfly worked as an assistant to carry out the experiments, it didn't forget to absorb all kinds of precious materials. With its own efforts, the speed at which its body, energy, and spirit fused was now much faster than Ayan. Su Hao was pleased by this. At this speed, in another 7 to 8 to 9 days, Butterfly will be able to break through to the monarch level. At that time, I'll also be a real Heavenly King level sprite trainer, a 20-year-old Heavenly King level. But his development in the sprite trainer path was now inferior to his development in the sprite cultivator path. This was probably the troubles of a genius. At the thought of this, Su Hao used the excuse of being busy with the follow-up matters of the fallen evolution to slack off for another 2 days. On the third day, he changed into a handsome suit and called over the dumb unicorn to ride to the competition venue. Compared to the previous years, this year's high school league had quite a lot of changes. On the basis of the original team competition, there was also an additional individual competition. Not only could it show the importance of teamwork, it could also highlight individual strength, making the high school league even more exciting and varied. Apart from that, there were also a few extra special guest seats on top of the original 2 commentators. Of course, there were also rules that remained the same. The champion of the previous year was the Whale Island University team, so this year's high school league was held at Whale Island University's campus. The university campus that rarely saw human traces on ordinary days had already become especially lively, especially in the battle area. Apart from Whale Island University students who were running around in various venues, there were also many students from other schools who came to watch. There were even more viewers watching through television and live streams. On the internet, discussions about the league and the top students of the various schools were endless. Whale Island University is indeed strong. I'll bet 50 cents that this year's champion will still be Whale Island University. Only 50 cents? Big Boss Su, who was only a first-year student last year, was able to lead Whale Island's big school team to win the championship. Besides, a year has passed now. God knows how strong Big Boss Su has become. I'll bet $10. Heh, Whale Island University may not necessarily win this year. Someone said, and produced evidence. Think about it carefully. From the beginning of the group battle until now, how many members did Whale Island University send out? These words made many people recall immediately. Every team member could only send one sprite in the group battle, but there was no rule that they had to use their trump cards. Therefore, many official members of the school team would also go on stage and send their second and third tier sprites to train. As for the Whale Island University team, 1, 2, 3. Up until now, a total of 10 members have gone on stage. Godsu isn't among them. What's going on? What's wrong with the people from Whale Island University? Why isn't Big Boss Su in the team? What is the reason for this? What's the point of a high school league without Godsu? I give up. At this moment, the person who spoke first spoke again on the forum. Idiot, didn't you realize that one of the 5 extra special guest seats this year is empty? At this point, the league was still at the stage of group battles. Especially during the early stages of the group battles, the battle standards of the sprites on the battlefield were mostly not high. The 2 professional commentators were completely able to handle them, so the cameras naturally focused on the battle sprites and the 2 commentators. The special guests didn't have much of a presence. Some people didn't even know how many special guests were invited this year. However, someone with sharp eyes suddenly noticed something. There are a total of 5 seats in the special guest area, and one of them is contestant Lanqing from Dragon Nation's school team last year. She's also not on the contestant list, so you know why I'm so sure that Big Boss Su is one of the 5 guests, right? Some agreed with this theory, while others doubted it. But even more people's eyes were still focused on the battle. As the group battles gradually approached the end, the sprites on the battlefield became stronger and stronger. Improved unique skills kept appearing, and the figures of Elite Level Limit and Elite Level Invincible appeared on the field. Whale Island University vs Rainforest University. The 5th round begins. The judge waved the flag. The captain of the Rainforest University team, who was at a disadvantage, went on stage. He stretched out his hand. Boom! A huge and muscular rainforest giant ape appeared on the battlefield and let out a roar. The extraordinary aura pressure was released without any reservations. In an instant, it was as if a hurricane blew across the whole field. Yellow-brown dust flew everywhere. However, the entire live broadcast camera only stopped on the rainforest giant ape for less than 2 seconds before it shifted and cut into the broadcasting hall. It was fixed on the empty guest seats. A handsome young man walked over, waved at the camera, and sat in his seat with a smile on his face. The last special guest had arrived. Chapter 374, Professional Explanation. The captain of the Rainforest University team, Lin Gu, was currently in high spirits. It wasn't that he had the confidence to defeat Whale Island University. Apart from the 2 prestigious schools, Dragon Nation and Fiery Bird, no other major Sprite school team dared to say that they could defeat Whale Island. He was not confident at all. His high spirits were purely to make him look good in front of others. That's right. Among the many major universities, Rainforest University could only be ranked in the middle. Sometimes, it might even be difficult for their Sprite trainers to qualify for the group battles. But this year, Rainforest University was pretty lucky. When they besieged a powerful Dark Society stronghold a few months ago, they were able to reap a lot of the benefits. Even though their contribution to that mission was very small, the size of the mission was still huge and the overall evaluation was very high. The reward for their minor contribution was equivalent to their income for a few months. Lin Gu was especially lucky. When his rainforest giant ape witnessed the destructive power on the mountain range, it was actually affected and was able to break through to extraordinary level not long later. Extraordinary level. How many extraordinary level sprites were there in the various school teams now? He knew that it was impossible for him to defeat the Whale Island University team, but this was very likely the only time Rainforest University would do well in the high school league. Taking advantage of the fact that the Whale Island University team had yet to get serious, he had no other choice but to show off at the current moment. Regardless of whether he won or lost, at the very least, he was able to enjoy this moment while it lasted. That was what Lin Gu thought. Facing an elite level limit sprite, the rainforest giant ape attacked brazenly. Its aura burst forth, and a set of powerful secret manuals was used. Countless vines spread. The rainforest giant ape swung around as if it was in a forest, and with an unparalleled power, it exuded a powerful aura until air waves visible to the naked eye spread continuously. In just 2 or 3 moves, it was able to defeat its opponent. It also fully displayed its strength. Although the sprite that was defeated was only a 2nd or 3rd tier Whale Island sprite, the audience won't be able to tell. My quick defeat will probably increase Rainforest University's reputation by a bit. Next, as long as we lose decently. Lin Gu felt satisfied. He turned to look at the side of the battle hall, wanting to see the strong figure of his rainforest giant ape on the huge screen. He was stunned. There was no rainforest giant ape on the screen. That shouldn't be the case. The three schools for today's competition, Dragon City, Fiery Bird, and Whale Island, were all separated. At this time, the screen should be showing my rainforest giant ape. But why? He quickly discovered that there was no rainforest giant ape on the screen, but it wasn't at the other venues either. It was, in the broadcasting hall. At the guest area. Because the last seat that had remained empty was rumored to have belonged to the man who led Whale Island University to win last year. And that man had arrived. The commentators for the high school league were the same as last year. They were Huangtian Li and Siu Erong. They were famous master-level sprite trainers. Just like last year, they let their aces perform a grand performance at the opening ceremony of the league. The performance was full of special effects and also showed the unparalleled power of their experienced extraordinary sprites. The audience loved it. The shock their performance brought to the audience was much greater than the performance of the occasional extraordinary level sprites during the group battles. Even the official members of the three prestigious schools were probably no match for the two commentators. They were older, after all. But such a performance failed to attract the attention of someone like Su Hao. During the opening ceremony, he only glanced at the live stream twice. On the other hand, he looked at the other guests, his gaze sweeping across every sprite following behind them. Lanqing's sprite's performance ability was very strong. Even though it was already an extraordinary high-level storm godhound, it was still the sprite with the lowest development level here. As for the others, one was close to becoming a pseudo-monarch, one was a pseudo-monarch, and one was a pseudo-monarch perfected. The sprite trainers weren't too old either. They were in their early 30s, and each of them had extraordinary battle results. At this moment, as the camera turned, the special guest who hadn't shown his face much since the opening ceremony officially entered the audience's vision. Huangtian Li introduced, "This is K Pengfei, known as the Iron-Blooded Police Officer. The number of extremely evil criminals that Officer K has arrested is no less than 3 digits. The flying transport team that caused huge destruction in Lin City last year was arrested by a team led by Officer K. Next to him is Shi Long from the White Elephant Club. Instructor Shi had a 100-game winning streak from the White Elephant Challenge. He's an expert with very rich strength and battle experience. Then we have Ms. Gong Lin from Green Shade Group. Many of our viewers in front of the TV should know about last year's Blue Lake incident and how Ms. Gong Lin was able to suppress the incident. The audience naturally didn't know these 3 people. But their battle results were enough for many ordinary spectators to develop a direct understanding. Simply put, the general reaction was, "Oh my, how impressive." Su Hao didn't know them before, but he developed a deeper understanding after hearing the battle results in the introduction. Take the Blue Lake incident last year as an example. On the surface, the Sprite riot seemed to have been caused by environmental pollution, but in fact, the reason for the riot was because a small world entrance had suddenly appeared. However, the entrance was too small and its spatial fluctuations were too weak, which was why the local association of Sprite trainers failed to notice. At the time, on the opposite side of the entrance, a nest of hot-tempered sprites happened to dash out from the bottom of the aqua lake. However, before the sprites could get far, they were suppressed by Gong Lin, a master-level sprite trainer who just happened to be passing by. Compared to the 3 of them, Su Hao and Lanqing's battle results were a little less impressive after all. Many of their achievements involved confidential information that weren't appropriate to be announced. And here we have the second-year instructor of Dragon City University, an 18-year-old top-notch master-level expert, Miss Lanqing. Finally, we have the first-year instructor of Whale Island University, a 20-year-old top-notch master-level expert, owner of a personal laboratory, and discoverer of the evolution forms of 7 sprites. When he was still in high school, he had already completed the improvement of 25 unique skills. To this day, he has created more than 10 secret manuals, and Huang Tianli read the information in front of him word by word, but as he read, he felt that something was wrong. It seemed that the introduction was a little long. It was way too long. Cough, cough. The 2 parties fighting right now are the 5th trainer from Rainforest University and the 3rd trainer from Whale Island University. The sprite from Whale Island University is the Eternal Darkness Cat, an extremely rare dark element sprite. From the looks of it, there's no doubt that this Eternal Darkness Cat is an extraordinary level sprite and the ace sprite of a certain Whale Island team member. Huang Tianli quickly introduced the sprites on stage as he directed the focus of attention into the venue. As a commentator, he was naturally unhappy with the presence of special guests, but he had no choice but to go along with the arrangements. But I'm the professional commentator here, not them. As long as I firmly grasp the characteristics of every sprite and analyze the meaning of the battle for the audience with humor and professional methods, naturally, there won't be much for the few guests to do. Well, at that time, I'll just casually give a few opportunities to the guests, and I'll be able to look good when this all ends. Huang Tianli thought to himself. He was very confident. Last year, he became the commentator for the first time in the league. Back then, he was a little careless and indeed made some mistakes during the commentary process. But this year, he came prepared and had already gotten the league list long ago. When he came across some rare sprites on the list, Huang Tianli kept searching for information and even asked his friends for advice. He even researched many secret manuals that he wasn't familiar with. For this particular occasion, he had spent a lot of time and money. He put in all of this effort to prove that he, a professional commentator, didn't need the help of so-called special guests. Thinking up to this point, Huang Tianli's spirits were lifted. His gaze was as sharp as an eagle as he stared fixedly at the figures passing by in the image. The secret manual used by the rainforest giant ape is the flying forest ape. This secret manual allows the sprite to turn the whole competition arena into its own home field. And the Eternal Dark Cat, on the other hand, is using, is. Huang Tianli stared and thought about it. In the end, he came up with nothing and was speechless. Chapter 375, Cough, Cough, maybe I was the creator of all these secret manuals. The Eternal Dark Cat was a very small sprite. It looked like a British shorthair that stood on its feet and was only slightly taller than an adult's knee. It wore a black assassin suit and a small cape. At this moment, the figure of the Eternal Darkness Cat kept flying through the forest. Everywhere it passed, dark figures were left behind. These black figures were like clones as they attacked the rainforest giant ape from all directions, leaving traces on its body. They were clearly in the forest, but it was as if the Eternal Dark Cat was the one with the home field advantage, playing around with the rainforest giant ape. It also made Huang Tianli completely confused. This kind of battle method didn't match any of the secret manuals and improved unique skills he had learned about. It must be a combined unique skill, he thought. But after opening his mouth, he realized he wasn't confident in his own assessment. He could only smile pretentiously and pass the conversation to the guests. The establishment of special guests was meant to deal with such situations. When they discovered that Huang Tianli was a little stuck, Officer K and the others started to think. When the camera turned to him, he said, "Shadow steps, shadow path, shadow clone. I can see these traces, but I'm not sure what secret manual they are." Instructor Shilong continued, "I do know of a secret manual of instantaneous night steps. Its effect allows one to move quickly and leave behind shadow illusions to confuse the enemy. But it's only an illusion, it doesn't have the ability to kill." As they spoke, their gazes were all cast towards Su Hao's position. After all, in their opinion, as Whale Island University's instructor and student, it was very likely that Su Hao knew the background of the Eternal Darkness Cat. Su Hao indeed knew. This secret manual is called Night Killing Array. It's a secret manual that combines dodging and attacking into one move. Just as Officer K said, this secret manual was developed by combining unique skills like shadow steps. Its performance form is mainly. Not only did Su Hao reveal the secret manual in detail, he also explained how the Eternal Dark Cat was able to repeatedly dodge the rainforest giant ape, what the tactical arrangements for dodging and counter-attacking were, and so on. He used the simplest way to comprehensively describe the secret manual to the viewers in front of their televisions. Hearing this, Huang Tianli's expression was complicated. Wasn't he supposed to be the professional commentator here? He asked, I can't find any information on the night killing array on the internet. I guess this secret manual is a private manual of a certain sect, right? Many secret inheritances of Sprite trainer families and sects had some information to be found on the internet. There were only a few secret manuals that had no information to be found on the internet. Thus, it was very likely the secret manual was from a very traditional sect. Thinking of this, Huang Tianli cursed his bad luck. He thought that it couldn't be helped since he was just too unlucky to have encountered something that was outside his study range. At this moment, he heard. A private manual? No, the night killing array is just a very ordinary secret manual. It's just that it has only been created recently, and so it hasn't been uploaded to the internet yet. Huang Tianli. Officer K. Instructor Shi. So, are you the creator of this secret manual? You are, aren't you? No wonder you know so much. It was a fair loss. Huang Tianli thought to himself. Soon, his fighting spirit was reignited. The high school league was undergoing the same attention as the previous years. Soon, the group battles ended and the elimination round began. At the same time, the individual battles were also being held systematically. This year, the overall strength of the participants of the various schools was slightly stronger than last year. For example, there were 3 more extraordinary level participants that appeared on the field compared to last year. The number of improved unique skills and secret manuals displayed on the field was similarly large. In a battle between ordinary elite sprite trainers, there were usually only a few moves that were constantly recycled. Outstanding talents from various high schools, on the other hand, could always bring out killer moves that made people's eyes light up. It was exciting, but petals dancing, hidden killing intent, this should be some kind of secret manual. Yes, this secret manual is called Thousand Flower Blade. It was developed about 2 months ago. Su Hao said so. What, can it actually transform between real and fake phantoms? What secret manual is this? This secret manual is actually very ordinary. The range is quite small, and the flaws are very big. It only works well in competitions. Su Hao said humbly. This thunder meteor hammer. The guest who was currently speaking couldn't help but look at Su Hao again. Su Hao said, oh, this one. This thunder meteor hammer is actually infused with unique skills such as electromagnetic bind, thunder chain, thunder ball. Oh, I know this one. I know this secret manual. When a certain sprite flew out of the sea of fire while bathed in flames, Huang Tianli said excitedly, this secret manual is called Flaming Feather Gown. It can absorb flames to form a feather coat as hard as armor. Not only can it provide a strong defense for sprites, but it can also increase the power of fire element unique skills. It's a very advanced state secret manual. I remember that the secret manual was developed by a young sprite trainer 2 years ago. The person who created it. It's Huang Tianli recalled as he spoke to the audience watching the live stream. But as he spoke, he realized. The person who created the secret manual of Fire Feather Gown is our guest, Su Hao, Mr. Su. The camera turned again. Su Hao smiled. He was actually very surprised too. Because Whale Island's large school team had received his guidance, Su Hao had helped them develop a few ordinary secret manuals, only a few. After all, he wasn't omnipotent. He didn't know everything about the attributes of wood, fire, water, thunder, light, darkness, illusion, and ghost. But who would have guessed that? Some contestants from other schools had also learned his secret manuals. Both parties were fighting with Su-style secret manuals. And the secret manuals were all being analyzed on the spot by Su Hao. The professional commentator was at a loss for words. Time passed. The high school league gradually entered its deciding round. Just like last year, Fiery Bird was in third place this year. The ones competing for the team finals were Dragon City University and Whale Island University. The two prestigious schools had already fought with Fiery Bird University, and most of their trump cards had already been exposed. For example, the secret manuals grasped by official Whale Island University members had already been carefully explained in yesterday's competition. Today, the commentator finally didn't need to ask Su Hao questions like "this secret manual is" anymore. There were no academic difficulties anymore. It was time for him to showcase his professionalism. He had to redeem his dignity as a professional commentator. Huang Tianli's fighting spirit was reignited. At this moment, in the towers at both ends of the simulation battlefield, the Dragon City team and Whale Island team were summoning their trump cards one by one. The members representing the Dragon City team were the 5 extraordinary people who had gone into battle yesterday. Whale Island's team was definitely also. Hey? Huang Tianli had been busy searching for information these few days, so he was a little slow. Only now did he notice that the Whale Island team had changed its members. One of them was a substitute, a first-year student of Whale Island University. Another freshman. Seeing this information, Huang Tianli had a bad feeling again. Indeed. The substitute, a first-year female student, spread her fingers, and a human-shaped sprite with countless demonic black patterns walked out of the spatial ripples. This, what kind of sprite is this? It's a fluorescent demon, a fallen fluorescent demon that has already completed its fallen evolution. Huang Tianli. The guests.